Hello, you there? Can you hear us?
Hold on.
So I guess the first question we had for you was why an updated Utopia instead of maybe a new model? What was sort of the decision process there for you guys?
So the idea with the new Utopia is more an upgrade of the current Utopia. For us, it's not entirely a new Utopia because we still keep our Beryllium driver. Most components of the drivers are the same. I think when we launch a really new headphone, it will be new in terms of technologies, drivers, maybe a different driver construction. I don't know because it's not what we are launching today. But as let's say the base is quite the same. For us, it's more an evolution of the Utopia rather than a totally new headphone.
And now, admittedly, I have not listened to the new Utopia yet. So I'm asking this question with no idea in mind, but I'm curious if you were looking to alter the sound on the original. What was the tuning that you were hoping to achieve? Were you hoping to match the original or change something?
Of course, we want to be close to the original because Utopia headphones needs to be and needs to stay a Utopia headphones. I think a customer who likes the Utopia will still like the new one, but of course we are looking into improving some things according to some feedbacks that we had from the market. For example, we know that some customers were thinking in the high frequencies. Sometimes it could be a bit picky in some at some point. So that was something that we had in mind, and we were saying if we launch an update, an evolution of the Utopia, it could be a thing to improve. So that's what we try to do with the M-shaped grille inside the driver. We improve the linearity in the high frequencies, and with this Utopia also we changed the voice call of the previous one. The previous one was in aluminum. Now we have a mix between aluminum and copper because we improved the reliability of the voice coil. So of course, when you change a component of the driver, it has some impact in the sound. So that's why we worked on a new tuning. So we keep, I think, let's say the character and the signature of Utopia, but with improving a little bit high frequencies, the linearity, but still keeping good low ends, of course, very clear medium, and all the precision that we can have thanks to the Beryllium.
Okay.
Right. So I have listened to them. I wanted to make sure that I burned in these headphones very well before I let anybody listen to them in the building. I did an initial impression, and I always know with new headphones, they need time to break in. So I'm going to say I probably put about 250 hours on the headphones and then did a comparison between the two. And on paper, I mean, the specifications look identical, but from listening to the two of them, there is a clear difference. It does sound different. What would you say attributes to why it sounds different? And we'll talk about what I mean by sound different later on and after the questions. But what are your thoughts into why it sounds different?
So when we look at the specification, they are the same because most of the driver is the same apart from the voice call, but it doesn't change too much. It would be on the impedance, but it doesn't change very much between aluminum and the mix because we have few copper inside. So that's why the specifications are the same because the driver's components are very close. The construction is close. So let's say the frequency response of the driver is the same. After, of course, when you measure, and that's where you see the gap, the specs are the same, but after, of course, the frequency response is different, and there is some slight changes, and it's with the voice call because we did a new tuning, and thanks also to the grille, the M-shaped grille, that it will change in the trebles. So that's why we have some change when you listen. But of course, if you just look at the specification, it's the same characteristic when you listen, and also when you measure them, you see where are the differences.
Did the internal volume change compared to the original, and how much does volume play into any change of the sound?
So the internal volume doesn't change. We keep the same volume inside the ear cup because, as you said, changing the volume affects a lot the sound. So in Utopia, we found a volume that matches very well what we wanted to do. So that's why we kept it. After, what we changed is the pattern of the grill outside with the honeycomb pattern that helps to open a little bit more.
Okay. All right.
But it's not really playing with volume. It's more playing with the openness of the ear cup.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. So we've noticed, the grill is flatter, and so that's why we thought maybe the volume changed a bit, and so that's why our question about volume. So yeah, let's talk about the grill and how that affects what's going on with the driver inside.
So when open headphones, of course, the more it's open and the more the sound will be natural, because everything works without any constraint, without being closed inside the ear cup. That's why open back headphones are very much appreciated when you are looking for the more natural sound reproduction. With the more you open and the better the sound will be. I mean, the sound stage will be wider. It won't really affect the quality of the sound, but it will affect how you feel the music and how you have the feeling that the sound stage is bigger, that you are less. We speak about occlusion effect. Also, occlusion effect means when you have the feeling that it's close and you're really into something close. The more you will open and the less you will have this occlusion effect. So that's why we worked with the Clear MG that we launched last year on this honeycomb pattern, because honeycomb pattern is, let's say, the most open pattern you can have. So that's why we worked on this for open back headphones and we applied it to Utopia.
And that sort of answered our next question that we were going to talk about airflow. So why don't you go to the next question you had?
We did touch on voice coil. I'm gonna ask you about, and we can go back if we need to, but I'm gonna ask you about the original yoke was carbon fiber, and then you used a recycled or a forged carbon for the new yoke. And if I understood correctly, it has to do with the pressure, or how it distributes weight on the head. How does this recycled or forged carbon, what are the qualities of it that facilitate that better weight distribution?
So actually, we first choose carbon fiber on Utopia because of the weight, because carbon is very light compared to aluminum. For example, on our other headphones, we have aluminum yoke. Here, we know that the drivers are bigger, they are heavier. So we wanted to look on how we can gain some weight. So that's why we came with the carbon fiber. Here, it's forged carbon, but it's still carbon. So it has the same material property. It's as light as carbon fiber. So actually, between the two, it's not an evolution. It's more in terms of design, but we want something different. But in terms of properties, it's carbon both. So it's the same weight. So it will be the same weight distribution and the same clamping force, comfort, and so on between the two, because it's the original material is the same. It's just the way they are building. So for carbon fiber, if they are working with the fibers and
weave.
Yeah, exactly. For forged carbon, actually, we say it's recycled because we take the waste of the carbon that they keep, and after we recycle it, and we do forged carbon by pressing. We cut the fibers, and after we press into a tool. That's why all the yoke are different. They won't have all the exact same pattern because it's one by one according to the pieces of carbon that we had.
Yeah, you can see it in
lots
the
of
bright
variation.
light. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's very cool. I like it. I think it's really different and neat. So there was some information in the release news that we got for all the marketing material, et cetera. You had talked about the Honeycomb design on the grills, or what you're calling the M-shaped speaker driver grill. So how does that relate to the drive? The driver is obviously an M-shaped, but how does that Honeycomb design relate to that M-shaped speaker driver grill? I didn't quite understand that.
So it's this grill
internal.
that we exactly, the internal grill that we are talking about. Previously, it was already with honeycomb pattern because of the openness, same as the external grill. Yeah, here is it's the same pattern, but it's formed differently.
Okay.
It's
So it's
formed
to
into
drive.
the M shape because our drivers is M shape. So we formed it into M shape in order to really reduce the gap, because before we had the M shaped driver and the grill that was flat. So of course you have bigger space between the driver and the grill. Here, by folding it the same form as the driver, it reduces the gap and it helps for the linearity in the high frequencies. But it was already honeycomb. So it's not that it's honeycomb, the improvement, because it was already honeycomb, but it's that it's shaped the same way as the driver.
And so now it's parallel exactly with the driver. So I would assume that that's changing reflection modes, right? So that's why, like when I get into talking about my sound changes between the models, that makes sense to me now that the reflections have been changed from the original model. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
I thought I saw something about a different type of leather being used, but I'm not sure because they seem similar. So are you using a different leather?
No, it's the
all
same.
the same.
For the headband and the cushion, it's the same leather. It's the lambskin leather.
Okay, and since that was a quick question, I'll ask my other one. I saw something about a yin and yang. I'm just curious on the case, but unless I was missing something, I didn't see it.
So because it's not on the case, it's on the ear cup. I think you will see more obviously on the headphones that you have, but here on the black pieces around the ring, we have some small cuts here and here. And it creates the yin and yang pattern. So it needs to see like here a line and here the other line.
Gotcha.
So this is where the yin and yang patterns. And actually the yin and yang pattern is a design code that we use for Utopia as a first, let's say, Utopia product with new design code. And after it will be used in the future for other Utopia products for Focal, because for us, the yin and yang represent the perfect balance between a nice design, let's say the most advanced design that we can do with the best technology that we can put inside. So it's really the balance between design and technology.
Okay, thank you. That's very interesting.
So could you explain more about the choice of Beryllium and why Focal uses it, not just in the headphone designs, but also in their speakers? I mean, I've been a long time user of Focal drivers going back to JM Lab. I used to build my own speakers, and I think Beryllium in years ago got a bad rap for being a bright sounding material, and I think that's really changed greatly in past years. So if you could talk a little bit about, Focal's philosophy of Beryllium, why it's used, how it's used, why it's so difficult to use, and so forth, that would be great.
So today we use Beryllium, of course, for our headphones in terms of full range drivers. But as you were saying, in other category of Focal products like speakers or even pro audio or motorities, we use it mainly for tweeters. Why? Because the Beryllium can go very high. When we measure only some drivers with specific tools, we know that it goes above 50 kilohertz. So it goes very, very high. And the sound speed is very, very interesting. It means that everything that we do, we have some demonstration here. We have some diapason in titanium, aluminum, and beryllium. And when you type it on an object, you see that the beryllium, you have some resonance, but it stops directly right after. It means that when we want to reproduce a sound, you have no resonance after. So everything is very clean. You have no sound that will perturb the original signal and so on. So that's why we use it. It's also a very rigid material, so it helps because it won't move, it won't deform the shape. So if the speaker driver keeps really the good movement without being deforming, it's where you have, let's say, the cleanest signal, and you are sure that the sound won't be reproduced badly, let's say, if I can say this like that. But yeah, it's today, of course, we are doing a lot of research on new materials. Every time we have a research and development department, always working on new materials, what we can find, how we can improve our technology. And today it's very, very hard to find a material which achieves the performance of beryllium in terms of weight, because it's really, really light. Rigidity, it's the most rigid material that we can have, and damping is very good. These three criteria are very important for a driver, being headphones or speaker drivers. And today the beryllium really is very good for these three criteria. Sometimes we find some other material, for example, the magnesium, as we put on ClearMG, it's very light, so it's interesting. It's even lighter than the beryllium, but it doesn't have the same rigidity. So it's compromise on the rigidity. Here with the beryllium, and what's impressive, it's really these three criteria being at what we want the most for a speaker driver.
So is it too cost prohibitive or not ideal to use in larger drivers like a mid-range or whatnot?
It's really cost.
Cost.
Yeah. It's cost. After it's also very, very interesting for the high frequencies, so that's why we use it more for tweeters. For full range, it's interesting, but after doing a mid range only in beryllium, you want maybe also more weight, because after when you go in the lower frequencies, you need to push more air. So that's why after in mid range and even woofer, we have some other different materials. It would be interesting to do the test, but honestly, today it's really interesting for tweeters and full range. It's also very very hard to form. It's a material that needs to go very high in temperature in order to be able to be formed. So that's why for the moment we use it on small surface.
Well, I'm an absolute huge fan of the Utopias. I mean, when they brought me the original one in 2016, I was absolutely blown away. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite headphones, and I'm so glad to see the iterations continue with new versions. I think the new version is absolutely stellar. It's, to me, I found it to be warmer than the original, which is, quite frankly, I wouldn't have thought it would become warmer from, improvements in beryllium and whatnot going on. I would have thought maybe it would be, I don't know, maybe the same signature, but a little bit different. But it's a warmer headphone than the original, which is surprising to me with beryllium. And I think everybody's going to be pleasantly surprised. It's the great thing I love about the original Focal Utopia with the beryllium is that the speed and the detail and the definition doesn't become cold or sterile. It's very musical, right? Those are two very different categories. It's really hard to do warm and musical and detailed and analytical. And the Utopia is really one of the, I think honestly, the only headphone that has the ability to do both. And so with the newer version, I think it's a little bit warmer and a little bit more musical than the original. So, kudos, absolutely fantastic design. I think it's going to be it's going to do gangbusters out there. It's going to be a wonderful product for everybody. What are your thoughts on the sound differences between the two? Obviously, I don't know your history with Focal, and I don't know your history with the original and all that, but, how do you feel about the changes in sound and the differences to your ears?
Actually, when I arrived in Focal, Utopia was just launched, so I didn't participate in the tuning of the first Utopia. But of course, when I listened to it, I was really amazed by the level of detail we can have. For me, it's really something that you listen to a song and you have the feeling that you've never heard it like this before, that you discover some background noise or things like this, and it was really impressive. To me, and I quite agreed with some feedback of customers that we have, that sometimes in the high frequencies, it could be a little too much. I would say that it's tiring, but I think sometimes it was a bit picky in the high frequencies. So that's why when we had, let's say, the opportunity of launching a new version of Utopia, I wanted to see how far we can go without, of course, losing the Utopia sound signature, because I think Utopia is Utopia, and it needs to keep a character of Utopia, but with improving a little bit. So we did some first trials already with the M-shaped grill, and it was interesting to see the changes that it can have. It's a bit smoother, I think, in the high frequencies, and I thought it was really interesting. And after, of course, when we had the feeling of changing the voice call to make sure we don't have any reliability issue or things like this, it has also it had an impact. It was minor, but it was going in the right direction. So when we first listened, let's say the final driver with the grill and so on, I was like, actually, that's the Utopia I wanted. So we are really proud with the engineer here, also at the R&D department. We are really proud because in the end, I think we did the Utopia some people were expecting, because they always had something to say, maybe on the high frequencies or things like this. So really, when we listen to it, and we also talk with different people at Focal, let's come and try. We were doing some blind testing of the two, and some people are saying, as you were saying, maybe it's more musical, I don't know, but yeah, some people are saying it's more pleasant. You still have this great dynamic, this great precision and details, but yeah, I think more pleasant to listen to.
Yes, I would agree.
Great.
I mean, bravo to you guys. I'm very happy with it, and I think everybody else is going to be happy with it.
I hope so.
I so appreciate your time. Are there any final thoughts or any kind of information you can share with us, with maybe some top secret things in the pipeline, maybe?
It will be hard to share the top secrets.
Yeah,
but of course, we are always working on research and development is beginning. It's bigger and bigger at Focal. We are working a lot on the future technology, on what we can do on the headphones market, and of course you will see that soon we'll launch some great new headphones.
cool.
Excellent.
Anything else, Sarah?
Yeah, no, this was really great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it so
Thank
much,
you.
and have a wonderful day, and great meeting you. Hopefully we'll meet in person at some point. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.